Hello, you glorious beings, and happy Monday. It's Sarah Ovlak Spiker here. And I want to talk to you about something that has been an occurring theme with each and every one of my clients over nearly a decade. And it's so interesting that at this point, I'm supposed to say that over all these years I've been working with thousands and thousands and hundreds of clients, but no, I have not. And this is one of the things that I actually pride myself with. And it has to do with the fact that I chose a different path. I chose a path of simplicity in my business. And simplicity is also the topic I want to talk to you about today. So as the description of the video shows, allowing yourselves to be simple can sometimes be one of the greatest hooks that are pulling us back. So let me explain and let me go into the depths of how our current reality in many ways has been the greatest gift in showing us how to simplify and streamline things and consciously make them more enjoyable. So as mentioned, one of the common themes with working with each and every one of the clients for over, throughout nearly a decade since I have been in business has been understanding on one hand that to many of them things have come really, really easy. They pick up on things quickly. They don't have to put in as much work to make things happen. And yet, just as I have done for myself, we all have been still caught in this paradigm that things need to be difficult, that in order to succeed we need to hustle and grind, and it has to be hard, and you have to push, and you have to work yourself to the bones, and you have to justify the worth, you have to justify your place, you have to justify and prove yourself. And there definitely is a place for hustle and grind. You can't succeed by sitting back and having your feet up in the air and doing nothing. Let's be honest with that one. But there's a difference in hustling and grinding, in making things happen and being proactive. Oh, thanks for the hearts. Versus having to do it to justify something that shouldn't even be justified in the first place. Because, when we lift up the hood, and this is one of the beautiful things and one of the things that I pride myself with when I work with clients privately, one of the reasons why I don't have thousands and hundreds of clients at the same time, but a select few, is so we can go deeper and we can really narrow things down, and we can really go and personalized approach to really understand through many, many, many layers of why things are happening. And one of the things that is a common theme throughout those conversations is the paradigm in which many of them have found themselves, many of them have been brought up with, when they are caught between how things used to be, how their parents used to run their businesses, how their parents need to show up, how the society was showing up, how they were indoctrinated they need to show up, and what success really means and feels like and looks like, or what providing for family looks like, versus on the other hand, really trusting their instincts and trusting their hearts and trusting the calling of their soul, which can be totally opposite, on totally opposite side of the spectrum from what they were indoctrinated into. So it creates this effect almost on a swinging back and forth, and ultimately spinning the wheels and not going anywhere except towards exhaustion and burnout and depletion, and many of them giving up along the way, because no matter how hard they tried, no matter how many hours they put in, no matter how they kept showing up to prove their worth, no matter how many discounts they tried to give to justify their worth, and the list goes on and on and on and on, they could not make the difference. And by the time they come to me, oftentimes they are exhausted. They are filled with self-doubt, and they are filled with, when your heart is telling you something but your mind is holding you back. Many of them experience that because they did not have any tangible evidence, and they made it so much harder than it needed to be. So in working together with nearly each and every one of them, as much as it had also been my experience, allowing for simplicity is something that has proven to be one of the biggest hurdles for them. And detaching from the need to have things done in a complex way and detaching from the need to have things done in a way that the society dictates or what the books are describing, checking off all the boxes. And the beautiful thing, as also mentioned in the description, our current reality has been one of the greatest gifts, because if somebody did not have the courage to make things happen and simplify things, the life has a way of slowing you down and showing you that there is a different way. And now many business owners are finding themselves in a space where they are forced to slow down, they're forced to simplify. Maybe some of them were toying with the idea of doing so, but they did not have the courage. Maybe it was scary. Maybe some of them have actually created the machines that it was too risky and too much at stake to slow them down. But right now, in order to not only maintain the financial stability as going through the crisis, but to also thrive and prepare the businesses for reopening of the economy, many of them even positioning themselves so they currently are thriving. My business, I'm lucky to say, knocking on wood, has been built from the very beginning to be one of those thriving businesses in this current situation. Everything is online, everything is extremely flexible, and it allows me to do a lot of other things to really show up and serve. I'm not concerned with pivoting or reinventing things or shifting things, right? Because I have been really intentional along the way. But what this situation also created for many entrepreneurs and business owners and leaders out there, as we said, to simplify and to streamline, was not just to create and maintain and preserve the cash flow, but also to be able to focus on the families and focus and adjust to the new family dynamics. And especially those of us who are parents, homeschooling, that's a whole new level of responsibility right there that brings in a whole new level of drama every day in a conversation with the kids, who sometimes they don't feel like doing anything, or responsibility when you need to understand what you're supposed to help to teach them, right? So a whole new conversation for another time. But the bottom line is that many of us have realized that things can stay that way. And maybe that there are ways that we can incorporate newfound simplicity and bring a new level of fun so that we can maintain it. And really cutting off all the, whatever they say, the expression, cutting off all the fat, and really stick with the core. This is a beautiful time. And the reason why I wanted to bring it up and why it ties into the first part of the conversation when I was talking about the fear of keeping things simple, because we have been conditioned that it has to be hard. Right now, it really is the most beautiful time to wipe the slate clear and to redefine what each and every one of the definitions is going to look like for you. So not only in business, but also in life. And it's not about the strategies, external scripts, or checklists that somebody else gives to you, but it really starts internally. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it's on the paper if you don't feel worthy of it being easy, of it being simple, and of it being in flow and receiving things and creating things and really sharing and serving with ease and grace. And instead you feel this crunch, you feel the need that you have to hustle, you have to grind, you have to prove yourself. It doesn't matter what's on the paper, because your mind is going to find a way to make it super complicated. If nothing else, you're going to be idling in the same space. And just like one of the clients that I worked with, they said for themselves, if I don't have it on paper, I'm just sitting in the office and I'm moving things back and forth and nothing gets done. And then they're beating themselves up because nothing gets done and they don't have the results that they know they could be having, which is again just feeding their own story that are not good enough, because things do come easy to them, but they're just making it hard. So all of this is really multidimensional, and it's a really holistic approach. So whether we are working, let's say, in a VIP day setting or in a 12 to 18 month arrangement in Intentional Impact Program, we really address things from multiple areas and multiple angles, so that we not only allow you to release all of those hooks that are pulling you back and get freed out of the shackles of cultural and generational programming and rewriting the paradigms, we also redefine what success looks like for you, what ease feels like for you, what service looks like for you, what excitement looks like for you. So that we really, really, really make sure that everything that we put out there is in alignment, is congruent. And as we're elevating your vision and elevating your ideas, this continues to be the Northern Star. So at the end of the day, whatever you walk away with is setting you up for long-term and sustainable success. And it's built in a way that continuously grows with you. Because let's be honest, as you grow, so does your business. As your business evolves, so do you. And as the dynamic in your family changes, it does affect yourself. It affects you and it affects your business. So the moment we allow for this dynamic to happen and take place, and we're not trying to cement ourselves in some time in the past when things worked, right? Even though they no longer work right now. Or they used to work, but they don't work for you in a way they used to. Or they do, and you want to hold on to them. If you give yourself this flexibility, and if you give yourself that, if you allow for this ease to take place, and if you allow yourself for things to be falling into place because you have found this inner peace, as opposed to consistently grinding and hustling and proving yourself, it will create a whole new reality, because you are going to show up differently and you're going to see things from a different perspective. And we all know that things start falling into place when you are at peace. And when, like one of my mentors says, however we choose to respond, that's what we get next. So if you continuously respond in this contraction and in this anguish and in this anxiety, more of that is going to be served. If we continue to respond with these mixed signals when we want something, but we're self-sabotaging ourselves along the way, when we are making all the affirmations, to create something, but in reality, we're taking action that goes against that, we're sending the mixed messages, we're hitting the glass ceiling, because if nothing else, the message that is received up there, it's like, they're having their hands full with what they even have. They can't possibly receive even more. Things are not going to change. We're just going to get more and more and more of that, what's keeping us busy. So the beautiful thing about all of this work, right? A lot of times people think that they have to do more physically. But what all of my clients, each and every one of them came to realize, and I want to say this clearly too, that by the time they come to me, they're not beginners. Hey Maria, how are you? By the time they come to me, they're not beginners in mindset. They understand how business works. We're not starting from the, one-on-one level, but it is really advanced level. And yet, by the time we are done in our work together, they have a whole different understanding and a whole new outlook and a whole new perspective, and they create a whole new experience for themselves of how to move forward. They have a whole new definition of what success and ease and service and integrity and alignment and impact and intentional living and leadership and successful business, whatever it is, they have a whole new definition of what that looks like for them. And we put a plan in place. Like I said, it's agile, it's sustainable, and it's in alignment. It's congruent with their own definition and with their own vision and goals and purpose and mission. So to wrap all of this and bring it back to the beginning, as I was saying, oftentimes we have those subconscious commitments to making things harder, or we have been indoctrinated into paradigms of how things are supposed to look like, or we feel guilty. How am I supposed to just show up, right? One of my clients said to me, how am I supposed to show up and do things and do the work that really lights me up and comes so easily? And clients pay me a ton of money while my parents had to sacrifice and work themselves to the bones, and really, it was really barely making it from month to month to month. It's, what are they gonna think? it is a huge burden. It is a huge weight to carry. So the sooner you can set yourself free and the sooner you can redefine things for yourself, the faster you can advance on your own journey. And another thing that I want to mention here is faster, sooner, the time constructs, right? At one point, we start to realize that, hey, what if time doesn't even exist? And we start to realize that it's true, time doesn't really exist. It, again, is just a construct. And we stop comparing ourselves, and especially we stop comparing ourselves to those overnight stories when we are only presented with one side of the coin. And that is especially true, and that's another example that I used with one of my clients, right? In sports, we all know that to become a successful athlete, a world-class athlete, Olympic athlete, you don't just show up in the gym for a year and then show up at the top level competition and possibly win that competition. We all know it takes years and years and years of not just dedication, but focus, intense focus, and incredible intentional action. Step by step, everything is intentional. And yet, when it comes to entrepreneurship, we somehow have bought into this idea that everything happens overnight, and if the leap from 0 to 1 million doesn't happen in 9 months, that there's something wrong with you as a business owner, right? And for some reason, we bought into this belief that if, well, let's say we're investing in studies and we're investing in degrees, that's okay, but investing in your own business, oh shoot, I want to be debt free. I don't want to invest something if the ROI is not 100% guaranteed in a particular time frame. And again, time is just an illusion. But in the meantime, hey Tanya, in the meantime, ROI is so much more than just cent to cent and dollar to dollar. ROI, can it be really measured in our personal growth and expansion? Can ROI be really measured with the peace of mind that we create? Can ROI be really measured, in a lifetime that we get to benefit from this newfound clarity or elevated perspective or expansion and growth on a personal level, or a new strategy that completely changed the trajectory of our own business, that allows us to support more people on a very different level, right? It's really subjective, and yet we have somehow bought into this very narrow, very compartmentalized definition of it. And I see more than ever right now in our current reality how many business owners are trying to outsmart the situation, are holding back, and are really contracting, waiting things to kind of get back to normal, which they're not going to go back to normal. And the crisis is not over externally. It all starts inside. It all starts up here, and it all starts in here. So I know this is going out on a tangent, and this is now a whole new level of conversation from what it was presented in the description. So if you're just joining me now, I do invite you to rewatch this recording. But from my heart to yours, what I really invite each and every one of you, if you still feel kind of caught up in this whole cycle of your heart pulling you somewhere and your mind pulling you somewhere else, and if you feel that you're still contracting because it's uncertain out there, I want you to know that you have freakingly trained for this your whole life. Nothing in life is certain. Nothing in life is given. When you, let's say for those of you who decide to become parents, just becoming a parent is, uncertainty one-on-one. You cannot plan from today to tomorrow. It's improvisation one-on-one. It's the crash course in personal development, because those little ones are going to push every single one of your buttons. And entrepreneurship, if you decide to be a business owner, it's personal development 101, 202, 303, whatever the advanced course, because the business will only grow to the point that you're going to grow. The business is only going to expand to the point that you're going to expand, and vice versa. The more that you grow and evolve and expand, the better possibilities there are for your business and for your team and for your impact and for your clients and for your legacy. So the bottom line, I guess the point that I'm trying to make here, and then I'm intending to make here, is that when we start to intellectualizing things, and when we start to get in our own way and slowing us down because it doesn't make sense, it's not logical, it goes against the norms, it goes against the expectations, it goes against the common mentality, that's when it's crucial to give ourselves the freedom and the ability and permission to go into the direction that is we're being called to, even if it means making a U-turn or a sharp right turn, right? Because in a long run, in a long way, the more that we're trying to stay in this compartment, in the old paradigm, in the old parameters, fitting the mold, fitting into the boxes, fitting the labels, the more confined we are and the harder is it gonna get. But the moment we allow ourselves to be, I don't want to say free, because even freedom is relative, but when we allow ourselves to expand and elevate and follow the calling of our heart and answer the calling of our soul, there's a level of peace that comes with it that will put into place every single one of next steps. And when we simply trust that when we do take the leap, we don't have to know exactly how we're going to get there and exactly what's going to happen, but the safety net will appear, the wings are going to grow, we're going to build the airplane on the way down. And even if we don't, and if we scratch ourselves, hey, you climb back up and you try again. That's what life is all about anyway, right? So when it comes, to bring the point back to the simplicity and ease and flow and grace and allowing it to be as such, I do believe that for those who choose to see this as an opportunity to really, hey Eva, I have to meet you too. I'm looking forward to it. So to those of us who have given ourselves permission to do that, it doesn't have to be a global crisis. It doesn't have to be some life-changing event. It doesn't have to be, laying on a deathbed and having this come to Jesus moment in order to say, oh my gosh, life is really short, I should really do something with it. It really starts within, when no matter where we are, no matter what we do, no matter how we do it, something shifts, something clicks, and you're like, but of course it's meant to be, but of course it's supposed to be easy, but of course it can be in a flow, but of course I can have fun with it, but of course my clients come to me, but of course they want to pay premium fees, but of course I don't have to work myself to the bone, but of course I can have all this time with my family as well, but of course we can have fun, but of course we can have the times of our lives, and of course I can feel fulfilled, and of course I can feel expansive, and of course I can have the time for myself, and I can invest in myself, and I'm not worried about every single one of the next steps, because every single one of the next steps is going to appear on its own when you allow yourself to get into the state. And it's not just the state of mind, it's a state of being on a cellular level. When you radiate this and you exude this energy, it literally changes everything. And the even more amazing thing is that just as everything is literally a spiral. Clients would say to me at one point, like, oh, this was a conversation I had with myself or with my mentor or with my higher being or with my source or with God or whatever last year. Or this is the exercise I did 2 years ago and I thought I got over it. It's a spiral. It's never ending. All there is just layers and layers and levels to it. So even as you're feeling incredibly receptive and in playing into limitless possibilities, there is still more to come to you. There is still more available to you when you open yourself up to it, and when you open yourself to receive it, and when you are open to create it, and when you're open to calling it in. And the beautiful thing about it is that as we're journeying along the way, there's a saying that says you can only see and you can only receive things to the level that you're able to see. Our horizons are expanding, our capacities are expanding, and there's no way back once you take every single one of the next step. So again, when it comes to building a business, when it comes to the work that I get to do and I'm privileged to do and I'm honored to do, and it's been an incredible joy, all of this gets integrated. It's not just simply strategies. You know, I had a client who said to me, can you just put it on a piece of paper and give me the checklist of things to do? I was like, no, I can't, because it's not going to work, because you're not going to work for it. And you're not going to allow it to work, because you are going to find a way to sabotage yourself. And it was at the very beginning, that was many years ago, before I even was able to see things that I'm able to see now. And before I was able to have the awareness that I have now, I knew that much. However, as I am journeying it through this, and I am proceeding through this journey, and I'm experiencing this life, and I'm opening to receive and to create and to share and to give and to gift and to do and to, you know, just be more. This space is being created for each and every one of my clients who are currently working with me, just as much as people in their own circles, because it's all just simply energy. And as the bigger containers that I'm holding, the energy that I'm able to hold, I can also hold so much more energy for people who might not be working with me anymore, or who are not yet called to work with me. But it's a very different frequency on which we operate. And it, you know, I'm no longer surprised when I just think about somebody who's like, oh, I wonder how this person is doing. And the next thing I know, there's an email from them. Or I think about, oh, I wonder what this person decided, and they send me oh yeah, it's gonna be a yes. I just felt I needed to reach out to you, or I felt to share this, whatever it is, almost this telepathic communication. And I know to some people in my circle still this sounds like, what? And I promise I was in your shoes one time too. And I promise, you know, when I first started out my business in 2011, and one of the first clients that I signed up, she was already in the space that I am right now. And at the time, I was still this very pragmatic person, right? You know, very new out of business school, very new out of New York-based career, very new out of the world of athletics, where, like I said, you show up, you hustle, you push through the pain, you grind, you zone everything out, but focus on that one task in front of you, on that one vision in front of you. And I remember this particular client, we were working on a launch or something, and we had everything worked out. You know, the whole calendar was worked out, the whole content was in place, like everything. It was just push the button and go. And I remember they came to me somewhere in the middle of that launch, and they said, you know what, I'm not feeling up to it. Moon is in a certain cycle, there's Mercury retrograding that I missed, and we need to postpone this. And at the time, it's still one of my favorite stories to tell, just to show you how far I've came. At the time, I almost lost it, because my project management mind, my pragmatic mind, my analytical mind could not possibly understand how can something affect you so much when you clearly defined the timeline, when we clearly committed to a particular timeline, when everything was already put in place, right? How can you, long story short. So when I was catching conversations, and I would catch really enlightened and woke people talk about energetic vibration and expansive and infinite mindset, I did not have a point of reference what it was. It sounded good, so I was intrigued. And slowly but surely, I started to realize, and I started to notice the experiences and growth and evolution on my own. And I started to connect the dots, and even looking back, I was like, oh, that's what it was. At some point, you know, I thought I was, I don't know, delusional, or that I was going crazy, or, you know, when you don't even have the vocabulary to explain what happened. So looking back now, I was like, oh, yeah, totally. But through the experience, through intentionally putting in the work and intentionally investing in myself and intentionally surrounding myself with people who would pull me higher, who would challenge me, who would help me see things from different perspective, from things that I thought was completely out of the alignment, and yet allowing myself from detach from the specific timeline and taking the pressure off of me that certain things had to happen in a certain order, in a certain timeline, it really enabled for the process to take place. It enabled for me to start returning back to the core and eliminating the fat, pretty much, all the unnecessary things in my life and in my business, both, right? And in that category of things that got released was the limited mindset, were the stories that I kept feeding myself, were the beliefs that I chose to believe into, were the stories that I chose to take on as my own, just as much as strategies and tactics and systems in business, just as much as specific infrastructures in business. And ultimately it came to a space where I was able to even recognize that certain modalities and certain approaches when it comes to consulting and coaching and mentoring, they didn't fit me. And I was able to eliminate all the unnecessary things from there. Things, I'm saying things, there's a lot more to things than just things. I'm having way too much fun right now. What's coming through and why I feel the need to really share this with you is that if you only allow yourself, and whether you choose to do it on your own or whether you choose to do it with a mentor, whatever you feel called to, the next step. One of my own mentors says it has to be a fuck yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree. If it's calling you to reach out to me and have me by your side, that's okay. If you're the right fit and if it's a fuck yeah for both of us, well, we're gonna do it. If you feel called to somebody else or to some other way, and if your 180 is going this way, or if you need to make a U-turn, I don't care exactly what it is. I'm completely detached. What I really want you to hear and what I want you to get away from this video once it ends, and what I want you to feel into, is to give yourself a permission to follow the calling of your heart and answer the calling of your soul, and to detach from this notion of how it's supposed to look like based on somebody else's expectations and based on somebody else's definitions, and trust that wherever you are, you deserve it, you are good enough, and you are worthy. And also detach from the particular outcome and a particular deadline that you have probably put in place for yourself, because it only creates pressure. But when you allow yourself again to go back to the core, to go back to the beginning, and to go back to redefining and setting your own definitions, and when you give yourself a permission to change your mind anytime along the way, when you give yourself a permission to find this peace of mind, you will see how everything else is going to start falling into place. When you give yourself a permission to take the leap, even when you don't have all the answers, you're going to see how everything starts falling into the place. When you give yourself a permission to honor yourself and say yes to what feels in alignment, even though it scares you, everything is going to start falling into place. When you feel that, I don't think there are words that I can possibly use to convey how that gets to feel. Because first and foremost, this gets to feel differently for different people anyway, right? But there's something to it, some expansiveness, some limitlessness, some weightlessness that comes with it, and lightness that is just like, So I do wish you get the experience. I do wish you give yourself a permission to it. And I do wish you create a space to invite it and to bring it into your life. And one of the shortcuts that you can take, now really bringing it a whole circle, is by simply saying no to whatever doesn't fit anymore and saying yes to more simplicity. And for some, the process, like I said, has started by cutting off unneeded things to streamline their processes, to preserve the cash flow, whatever that motivation initial step was, I invite you to continue down the road. And in addition to streamlining things and making it simple and making it easy, allow it to be fun as well. And allow it to be fulfilling, and allow it to be joyful, and allow it to be just, whatever it is, it is. So if you're just joining now, I have no idea how long this video has been going for. How long have I been talking? It has literally been streaming through. But I do invite you to start at the beginning and see how we have come the whole circle, because we covered a lot. We covered everything from mindset to strategies to energetic vibrations to intentional growth and evolution to everything in between. And do let me know where you find yourself that you are right now on your own journey. Be curious about what's coming up for you and why. And especially if there's doubts coming up, or if the little voice is trying to say, this wouldn't work for you, or this is not possible for you, or who do you think you are, or whatever little thing is coming up, I invite you to take a look into it as one of the obstacles, one of the hooks that are holding you back from getting to where you feel being called, where you know you're meant to be. And just be curious about it and love on it and see how you can release it. And that would be a great first step. So if there's anything I can support you with, please reach out and let's have a conversation. And if this has inspired you to take a different action, go for it. If it feels good, go for it. If it's a fuck yeah, like one of my mentors says, hey, go for it. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to have it all figured out. And that was one of the major lessons that I have learned on my own journey too. That sometimes, standing on the ledge and trying to figure it all out, by the time you do figure it all out, it's too late anyway. So I'm gonna stop right here. So from my heart to yours, I'm sending you love, I'm sending you light, and I can't wait to celebrate whatever comes next to you, whatever you create next, whatever you invite in next. And just keep in mind that however you respond to whatever comes your way, that's what life's gonna serve you next. So might as well start being mindful in how you respond. Sending you much love. Bye.